so number 9. What do we got going on with number 9?
Page 154.
154, thank you. 154? Oh, yeah. The wrong appendix. Okay, violating the law of demand. Oh, heaven forbid. Consider a region with 2 cities, Obeyburg and Vioville. The cities differ in the individual demands curves for housing. Consumers in Obeyburg obey the law of demand with negatively sloped individual demands. Consumers in Vioville violate the law of demand with positively sloped individual demand curves. Draw the housing price curves for the 2 cities, labeled PB for the obeyers and PB for the Vioville, under the assumption that PB equals PV at a distance of 5 miles from the city center. Hint, how does the conventional consumer substitution affect the shape of the housing price curve, and how would contrary consumer substitution affect the shape? All right, so answer, the housing price curve is conventional, negatively sloped, and convex because of consumer substitution, decreasing housing consumption as prices rise and distance decreases. Let me pause on that part of the answer. So where did we get that, the consumer substitution? What was going on with that assumption? That we started off with kind of a restrictive thing, and then we said, oh, let's allow consumer substitution. What did that mean as it relates to the housing part? What were they substituting?
That when like consumers can substitute like their housing, like land and housing,
Not land. It's with housing, but they are allowed to substitute. It had to kind of do with other goods. Was part of the substitution. But what is so other goods and what good related to housing? How did we measure housing? Yeah, the size. So we allowed them to have smaller square feet, and allowed there to be a trade-off as they got closer. So that one figure 6.7, that had the curve, the convexity to the housing price curve. We're measuring. We're going to come back to this one. So this was a good one that you had later. The distance factor is on the horizontal axis again. The further or the closer we get to the center, because we're with closer to things and my employment and maybe even activities, the consumers are willing to trade less square feet for being closer. We started off this linear job saying everybody needs a 1,000 square foot house. It's 1,000 square feet, 1,000 square feet. And then our willingness to pay falls strictly based on distance that we have to commute in, and there's a travel cost. So then we allow those 2 things to play together with each other, and that gives us that convex curve. So that's an important principle from Chapter 6 is the consumer substitution. All right, so in Vioville, the housing price curve is negatively sloped but concave because housing consumption increases as price rises and distance decreases. All right, so let me go back to, is that the thing that threw you? Yeah, it's a little wacky, isn't it? I want to see how they worded the consumers in Vioville violate the law of demand with positively sloped individual demand curves. I think they're allowing that substitution factor in there. So let's play around with this one a little bit. What did you guys think with this one? Did we think, or did we?
Didn't know what to do with it.
Okay. It's a pretty weird one.
Yeah.
the argument. So if we have, first of all, we've got the regular situation in Obeyville, right? And we'd have, with consumer substitution, the picture that we just showed, where we've got this convex housing price. This is price per square foot. So housing price per square foot. And this is distance from work, or the center is presumed what's here. So the further we get out, the less we can, the less we'll pay per square foot for a house due to travel. All right, so now we've got a demand curve that looks like this, right? So where I'm thinking, obviously you can see I don't know this with certainty as we go, because this is a wacko one. In order to get the housing price curve downward sloping, we need to have this effect overwhelming the upward slope, right? This effect is complementing, making it steeper. It still gives us our negative shape. So if this is what we start with without consumer substitution, which I don't think the problem's very clear on, but this is what we're starting in with without consumer substitution, then if we have that substitution starting to take place, I think they're talking about this thing maybe, I don't think it would necessarily go there.
Wouldn't it?
I think it would kind of go like this is what they're saying. Okay, you came in late. John brought up this problem. What did you think about it? Number 9. Number 9.
Yeah, and so there's actually 2 intersections if you lay them over each other.
Yeah, but it's not what we were separating out the Obeyville and the Vialville.
But if you lay them on top of each other, I was just saying, like, there's that sliver in between.
Unless you slide the other one down. And they only-
Well, and that's the next part that they have, right? Because I think they want us to say, what was it? What was the distance where they equal? 5. So I think we've got something like
Is there just a tangent
this
there?
going on.
Yeah, I think that one.
Whatever, right? I don't know if it really matters, but at 5, it looks like that.
Yeah,
I
well,
just have them tangent.
You had them tangent? Do they need to be?
Well, just
They don't
they
have to
only
be.
gave you one spot where they were equal, so I just figured they would be.
It doesn't
it
really
just says that they are equal.
Yeah, it just says that they're equal. They they could be tangent. I don't think they'd have to be, is my gut
It's
feeling.
not wrong with the change, but it's not.
Right,
Exactly.
right. Tangent is right too.
As long
yes.
as they're equal to 5. Right?
But I think that's the similarity here is thinking about how the consumer substitution reshapes it, right? And even if we start off with a real wacky demand curve, an unrealistic demand curve, then that consumer substitution effect might still make it look right. I think was the point of it. Okay, well that was a fun little wacky problem to stretch our critical thinking.
There was
Okay. Other ones on chapter 6?
4B.
4B.
Well, just 4 in general, I guess.
Matter transmitting.
Yeah.
You know, what do you guys think about when we first did the what I think it was chapter 2 maybe,
Yeah, this has-
with the matter transmitter stuff. You know, it sounded pretty whacked out, right? And like, why are we talking about Star Trek? But have you thought differently about that problem as we started to work through the material?
It makes sense.
And what's that?
Like, it just opens up for new opportunities, and obviously, like, this whole circular with the point in the middle and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
That graphic
Yeah,
I
it kinda-
saw,
it relates.
would change it so much more.
And it helps you think about these extreme outcomes. Reality somewhere in the middle, Where if we look at what we had for transportation technology 100 years ago, and we thought about the evolution of the horse and buggy, into the automobile, into the semi, into the train, I'm not going in proper chronological order here, but steamboat engine, all of these are kind of like improvements in transportation that are kind of like this matter transmitter, which who knows, maybe someday we'll get to the Star Trek example, but it helps push your brain into thinking how technology impacts the model and how it impacts reality, even if it's the subtle thing of now we can move people on a train from 100 miles an hour to supersonic at 300 miles an hour. How does that change the land use patterns? How does that change the landscape? So I just thought I'd throw that in there. I thought about that as we were getting into matter transmitters. So what do we got here? Consider manufacturing industry exports output by ship. Each firm has total revenue per month of $1,400 and to the port, so X equals 0 on trucks. A firm's freight cost is $100 per block. Suppose a second transport option is developed for a monthly rental cost of $300. A firm can use a matter transmitter to transport its output from its factory to the port up to a distance of 7 blocks. The marginal cost of the matter transmitter is 0, so it costs nothing to run it. It's just upfront fixed cost, apparently, right? Michael?
Do you mind, well, I guess after you read through it, do you mind if I kind of draw what I...
Yeah, why don't you start drawing? I'll keep reading. And you were actually asking about B?
Partially, yeah.
Okay, so draw 2 bid rent. I'll just read the whole thing. Yep, go ahead. Take more than one. No, here's a black. So draw the 2 bid rent curves for the manufacturers. One firm that uses the truck and the second firm that uses the transmitter for 0 to 10 blocks from the port. Firms continue to use over the interval, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so, which number is this? 4? So draw 2 bid rent curves, one firm that uses truck and a second that uses transmitter for 0. Okay, that was a nice answer, so they basically didn't tell you anything. And firms continue to use the truck over the following intervals, 0 to 3. 7 to 10, so we must have something going on in between. Firms use the transmitter 3 to 7 because it can only go 4 blocks, right? Or 7?
Yeah.
The transmitter, yeah. Okay, 7 blocks of the transmitter. Okay.
The way that they made it sound is that you couldn't go, like they were like you drive from 1 to 3, or if it's between 7 and 10. But why can't you go up? Because if you can transport it out to 7, and you still have 700 left, then you can drive 7 more.
Oh, and do a combination?
Yeah.
The question just said from 0 to 10 blocks.
That's probably the reason,
Well, the
but I
answer
think...
just said 0 to 10. The question never said anything.
let's see here.
You could
I think I see what you're saying.
But you'd have to have your stuff at a different firm, so you'd have to rent it 2 different things. Because if you're transporting it and you're still 3 blocks short of the port, you need to figure out a way to get it from there to there. So you'd end up paying rent.
A little extra. So yeah, the problem tried to focus on 0 to 10, but that brings up a good point if there's combinations. But then you're bringing up good points that would cause a problem of transferring from the matter transmitter to a new device of loading and unloading or whatever. But yeah, good things to bring up. I think that's right, that they intended the 0 to 10 one shot.
Can we talk about how that gets derived?
Okay, Michael? Take it away.
So pretty much you're not going to be, I guess, paying, if you can.
Okay, we gotta clean things up here a little bit though. Help me out. Variable.
Oh, bid rent or price.
Bid rent, price, dollars of
Yeah.
some sort. Okay.
And then you have distance from the port, right? Yeah.
And this is distance to the port. Okay, got it.
And so, part of the answer I agreed with where, from 0 to 3, you would still be driving, regardless, since it's cheaper to drive than to transport from anything less than 3.
And that's deriving from the matter transmitter costs $300. So if you're only going 2
Exactly.
blocks, it's not worth it. you would rather do the trucking.
Yeah, so from 3, actually,
That makes sense.
yeah, from 3 to 7, you would be, I guess, transporting or whatever. It was actually, I guess, it might be 3 to 10 if you can transport it for what, 10 blocks, right? You can transport 7. Okay.
Yeah.
7.
7 was the magic number for the
Okay,
matter
transmitter.
transmitter maxed out.
So you don't pay anything else to transport it from 3 to 7. You just pay that flat rate of 300. And so at 7, your rent is 700, and so it's that $100 per block is where I was getting that, 14 at.
Yep. Okay, other things to add? Other questions? That's so you got two, well, we didn't draw two bid rent curves for the manufacturers. So Chelsea, why don't you come up and draw yours? That scale will work. We'll give you a different color.
Well, like, I have the same concept, I just drew them separately.
Okay. Right. That's fine, you can redraw right over it.
So that would be like the trucks.
So that's all truck, right? The trucking technique.
Yeah, and so then that's what makes it, like, if I did it separately, it would be, or like put it together, it'd be there.
And then jump down.
Yeah.
That's the part I wanted to make sure we were thinking about on what that thing looks like together, which I think is kind of touching on what you were, if there's a mix, then it's the outer envelope of this, right? And then you jump down to here, that's a dash line, like
So
that.
that's without being able to, I guess, house your transmitter somewhere else.
Yeah.
Got it.
So this is a discontinuous, if we get into mathematical type expressions, we don't got a nice little equation. This is where we got this disjointed thing, like the function has form like this over this range. And so this is how we normally handle that over this range, then it jumps to this. So for x is greater than, and then you got to figure out your endpoint. At 7, we'd still be on this one, right? And then this would be your little open arrow thing to start here. Greater than 7, then the function looks like that. Right.
I figure out a way somehow to strike a deal with the firm at 3 blocks for like $50 to $100 a month. Then you'd be able to get people from 9 to 10, or from 8 to 9 to use it, but still 10 would be at a loss. Thing, maybe not.
Is that dropping down to 400 or 3? Like, I didn't have it specifically on mine.
This is dropping down 3.
Well, no, the where the hole is.
Oh, the hole?
I didn't have it
Drop.
specifically on scale.
Okay, yeah, we didn't have to.
The drop down to 3.
It would drop down to 3.
Yeah.
I would have never got
You could plug in x equals 7 into this if you made it, if you actually did a slope. This is a line, right? This is a line, green.
Yeah.
So you could do calculate the slope intercept
I
form.
just-
As far as getting
I
back to
just
Katie's,
didn't,
right?
so.
You could plug 7 into that and figure out where the break point is. Okay.
So at 7, did you add in the non-land production cost of 400? Because Michael was saying it was 7. Total bid rent was 700
For the
at 7
transmitter.
for the transmitter.
The transmitter is always 700 because.
Right, it's constant all the way to 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Could
why
you-
would you not take it to 8? I guess.
You lump sum physical constraint.
Oh yeah.
Physical constraint
Oh,
on the
7
transmitter
blocks.
out to 7. Yep.
It's not a case of getting firm 3.
Yeah.
Rent it out for $50 a month or something.
So it has to be physically 3.
Then you would be able to cut them down to like 650.
Cool.
Okay. Any other ones on this chapter 6?
On 3B,
3B.
it wants you to have, it has $600, but then I thought that was for 2, so I divided it to 300, but they said it was 600. But then they divided the cost per mile by 2, and I just got lost on why, which
Okay, anybody want
it is. So
you think the answer's wrong?
It has to be wrong.
So it'd be
because-
300 and then 120.
Yeah, just
Okay.
because, well, no, it's 360.
So why is the mileage divided by 2?
We talking
Doesn't
on
have
3?
anything to do with the hectares.
Well,
3B.
2 hectares.
3B.
Right?
Yeah, but mileage is just the transport
I'm
cost.
just, I actually did everything. That was when you had leftovers.
John, why don't you come up? Let's hear it. Let's share it with everybody.
All right.
Thanks, Chelsea.
I had to do it all.
While he's doing that, Russ, I was at Kansas Park yesterday,
Yeah.
and I saw you running. And,
Yeah, I was kind of laboring yesterday. Running didn't go so hot for me
Really?
yesterday, but I was doing all right. But
Well, I thought
kind of sucked.
the funny
days,
the funny scene that was, I guess, there was that your dog was following you, and Carter was being
Oh yeah,
pulled by your dog.
Carter was on the rollerblades. Yeah, that's been our thing. So, and sometimes I'll bike and like we'll go up for the Dairy Queen or snow
Bring
cones.
your dog to class sometime and we can have class.
Was that
I brought him in the building
I really
before.
like
So.
the dog.
What type of dog?
Well, I'll have a.
Big, huge white.
I do want to have a little springtime party again. We'll have it on my
Okay.
deck, and I was even thinking about cooking up some ribs. I kind of cooked some famous ribs.
Can we start creating your YouTube videos while we're doing that?
Can you create? What do you mean?
Your Russ Construction Rocks or whatever.
Russ
Oh.
Construction Rocks, and now it sounds like Russ Grilling Rocks.
Do you have a smoker?
Yeah, I do.
What do you have?
It's awesome. I got it at a garage sale for $18. It's a.
Oh wait, you
course.
told us about this.
Yeah, I told you about
And what-
that was on my. Well, that was in personal finance, but it's a kind of an entry level smoker, and I've never smoked before,
Is-
so
is
I've
it
only
a-
smoked about 5
is
times.
it a
It's pretty
Weber
awesome.
or-
Though. It's what is it? Not Brinkmaster, but one of the other standard ones you can buy at Lowe's. You know,
Okay.
kind of. But they're normally $80 to $100. All right. Wow, I didn't think we were gonna get into a big table,
I
but
said
you
I
can't.
want-
You
I
go.
want on the table.
You go. We can
Yeah,
talk
I said
about
this was
grilling
easy.
and
I decided
summertime
it'd be
since
easier
it's
to just do it as a
75.
table.
Yeah.
What's the FC for?
Freight cost.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I'll actually read the problem a little closer now that we're working it a little deeper. Occupies 2 hectares. The firm produces 10 tons of output per day, sells $80 per ton. The firm does not engage in factor substitution as price of land changes. Intra-urban transportation is on trucks. So let's talk about the factor substitution while John's finishing up. What does that mean here? Yeah, it says the firm does not engage in factor substitution as the price of land changes. So we got that linear thing. So fixed proportions is always, I use 80% land and 20% labor, or 50% land, 20% labor, and 30% capital, always in fixed proportions, which is an unrealistic assumption, because then as land prices go up, we tend to substitute away from land and into capital. Let's see here. Intra-urban transportation is on trucks with a unit cost of 12 ton per mile. Non-land cost 200 per day. The firm's exports its output via circumferential highway, the Beltway. From the Beltway. So that's part of your answer. Maybe that, it sounds like you guys did it a couple different ways, but distance from the Beltway would be the one way rather than dividing it by 2. Is that what?
Well, I wasn't going to divide it by 2, but the book says you do, and that's fine.
I think it depends on how it's phrased, and maybe it's phrased wrong. Okay, why don't you go for it, John?
Okay, just based on the equation of total revenue minus non-land cost minus fixed cost equals your willingness to pay, divided by your lot size for your bid route.
So the leftover principle,
Yeah.
all right?
So that's basically what I set up here for every single one.
Okay. So each distance, you got distance over there.
Yeah, every distance, total revenue is going to be the same. It's always 800. Your non-land costs are always the same at 200. Your fixed cost goes up by 120, I think it was. It was
Yeah,
like 12 times 10.
for every mile.
For every mile
Yeah.
out.
Each mile.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
it was $12 a ton, and you shipped out 10 tons. So
Okay.
you had that. Leftover was your willingness to pay, divided by your lot size, which was given as 2 hectares, to be a bid rent of $30.
Because our convention, just because our convention is always reducing it down to per hectare, right? Per acre, per, you know, just kind of our common unit, okay?
And so the difference between all of that is 60 a mile, I think it was. So the slope equals negative 60.
Okay. Chelsea?
Wait, the slope equals negative 60?
Yeah. Just because you're
Is this linear?
And that's what the.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah, it's assumed because of fixed practical
I
proportions.
had my bid.
With the fixed
That's
proportions.
for
I had
1
willingness
hectare
to
though.
pay on
Yeah.
my y-axis instead of bid rent.
Yeah, that's one thing. Good thing to point out again, that bid rent curve has bid rent, which is this per acre thing. So you always gotta do that little conversion here. If you put willingness to pay there,
The bid rent,
It's willingness to pay, it's by 120.
yes,
Right.
it's 300, but the slope was correct.
Yeah.
So the curve is gonna just be a linear.
It's straight line
Yep.
from 300.
yeah, if you map out this, the bid rent curve goes against distance, so it's this column and this column. If you plot those
And that's
points,
for one.
you've got a line.
hectare.
Because this is the rise over the run here, down 60 over
Yeah, yeah.
1, down, so that's all a line.
Is it, that's for 1 hectare then?
Yes, per
Do we
hectare.
need to
Bid
multiply
rent
that
is
by
per
2
hectare.
for the ground?
You'd want it to be in the bid rate, so you'd want it in the per hectares.
Per hectare. Whenever we're talking about the bid rent curve, we're on that per hectare deal.
The book determines the slope by the unit freight cost times the output divided by the lot size, which just change R over change max, which is essentially what John did.
Yep.
It's another way to do it.
Yep. Yeah, that's
That way
probably
would be quicker than making a giant table.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
it
fine.
happened to.
good thing to point out. Yes, there's a couple ways to crack the nut. Okay, thanks, John.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Can we go over?
So, back to the. Sorry, Katie. So was the answer key wrong?
The
Yeah, it should be
rent
Yeah,
was-
They said that.
The rent should be. Oh, they had it per. It should be 300. Basically, this one, right? Yeah.
Way to go, John. Way to go.
You know, I'm gonna actually. There's been enough errors already. Maybe I overlooked. A lot of times when they print textbooks, they'll go through it and they'll issue out a separate thing that says, here's all the errors that we've caught over time. So I'm gonna try to do that. There's been enough. Usually, if I catch 1 or 2, but now we've had a few of them. So although it's kind of fun to bring them up, then it pushes you guys to question, critical thinking of the answer. I know it causes you time. Yeah. No, I'd rather have you have the right answers. I would rather have you have the right answers.
Is it greater or
Little
less?
paragraphs explaining my answers to you.
All right. Are we good on 6?
That's wrong.
Last call.
Yeah, I had.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Can we go over the graphs for 7?
Graphs for 7. Segue. Are you just kind of wanting to check what you did?
Yeah, well, I didn't. The
Did you
graph
do?
part-
You got your graphs or not?
Yeah, that's what I'm struggling with. I don't.
Okay.
That's I'm not understanding.
Who's got their graphs?
Should have been, kind of.
Sir, why don't you come up and throw them on the document camera?
Who?
And, whoever. Mike,
Mine look like crap because
then we
I
can
forgot
you
that
guys
they're
kind of
supposed to
compare
be
your
there.
graphs and.
They could be wrong. Just go to that.
That's okay. Wrong answers are okay on homework. They don't hurt you too bad.
And then for 8E, is it greater or less? They didn't have one highlighted. It's greater.
It's greater.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah.
And the second part.
Are those, is that right?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. They just-
The answer wasn't. I was completely following the answer key on that one. I didn't put that.
Okay, once again, you're lacking a little bit on your. We'll just add a few things to your axes here. Tidy it up, tidy it up. Okay, we got the distance ax. Good, good. I want to see that on a test. That's a few points if you're. All right. Does anybody? Was there any more detail needed?
Are yours curved?
Chelsea, come up and put yours up.
They
so
were
we can-
originally straight. And
Not that Michael's wrong. I just thought let's get a
They may
compare
look
and
better.
contrast here.
Here's some toilet paper if you want to cover up the rest of your answers.
Oh, is that what?
I was
I
like,
saw
mine
that.
are
It looked like
probably
it was
wrong.
covered up.
This-
Okay, so there you've got the curves identified a little bit more.
Wow.
So concave,
Yeah.
convex.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's
Get it right, kind of.
Chelsea, can you leave that up? Sorry, I don't.
Well, let me kind of read the. So this was with a Segway self-balancing vehicle that is clean, battery-powered, small. Its footprint is little, so it can be used on sidewalks, inside buildings. Suppose the Segway is introduced into the central business district, doubling the speed of travel for information exchange. Show the effects of the Segway on the bid rent curve for the office sector. So that was our normal convex curve with the office sector, right? And then you're showing the ability to transport. If we go back to the figure in chapter 6, just to tie
So
that.
do they both have the same? Oh yeah, that's right.
I mean, I don't know.
So is Factor 7 teaching kind of like
What?
that matter transmitter problem where we can do it like car or just get there faster or something like that?
Well, it's figure 6.3 that we went through where we had the curve. This was in my PowerPoints where I put the demand curve has a curve type of thing because it was coming down. As we go further away from the center, the travel costs, because of the way it was modeled with information needing to go more trips, increased exponentially, which caused your willingness to pay to fall exponentially in terms of the bid rent. That was the concept with that curve. And then with this problem, we've got the being able to get there quicker would cause a shift out. So good. All right. Anything else on chapter 6?
I just have one more. I'm really not understanding the graph. For number 5.
Number 5. So the graph of 2 bid rent curves for manufacturers that peak at the highway. Who wants to show their graphs for number 5? John, you want to come up?
I have these labeled.
You've got these labeled. Well, go ahead if you
Well,
want.
there's only one.
If you
right?
want to redeem, yeah, yep.
I have it labeled.
You threw down a couple quick labels, really fast.
No, I have them labeled.
Okay.
Boom. Oh. Maybe.
All right. So now explain what's going on.
So right here, I didn't actually label which line was which, but the original one's the one that has the like higher slope or steeper slope.
Okay. That's shorter
and so
too.
With the ability to transport.
You can point with your pen on the document camera as you talk too.
Okay. The ability to transport at a lower cost now, I guess, allows you to move out further and occupy, more land or further away land.
John, agree?
Yeah, I agree. I just was going to say that I kind of did a double thing where I did one something similar to chapter 2 where you get a distance going one direction or another, but that technically is wrong in this
Why don't you
case.
come up? Why don't you put it up and see what it looks like?
I mean, it looks exactly like it is except double it.
Yeah, bring it up. Bring it up.
Here, have some paper. Awesome. In Italy, for Katie, you don't have toilet paper.
Oh yeah, you guys have to air dry or something. All right, so you did the TP thing.
Yeah, I basically
So
just.
basically, that's Michael's.
Okay.
right?
Yeah. I mean, it's literally exactly the same thing. I was just kind of thinking distances.
So with this problem, yeah, it is from the center, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So that's fine.
I
I wanted to see how it was worded, if both are acceptable. I think both are acceptable, but I just wanted to see. Which
Make
number
me
was this
feel
again?
bad, John.
No, you.
5?
I think yours is the one they were actually looking for. I just kind of sketched that.
Yeah.
John, you have fantastic handwriting.
Thank you. You can actually read that.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Keep what?
All right, folks. Anything else? So we're going to work a few more problems here today.
Yeah.
What I want to do first is, I don't know if you guys have done this, but get an idea. As we got into this chapter where we start thinking about people per hectare, and we did this a little bit before, I thought it'd be helpful for you guys to understand what a hectare is.
No, just like an acre.
Oh, yeah, I'm not even on it yet anyway.
It's a big square, right?
It's not like an acre.
It's a little
Is that
square.
What is it, Chelsea?
Is it not like an acre?
No, it's a similar concept, but an acre's smaller.
So it includes
Taking my
It's actually quite a bit smaller. So, chapter 7, maybe I'll just, since I opened my mouth, I'll just jump down to this. No, we are not. So here you go. You soccer fans, Max, you should appreciate this.
Okay.
So, there's your acre. Here's a hectare. So if we think about the football field / soccer field, although this is probably a real, is that full-size soccer?
No.
Does that it ends up being short, right?
It's like 3 feet short.
This was done in the UK, so I have a feeling this is a full size. So that approximately at least gives you a ballpark here of the difference between an acre. And then I threw in a couple of extra measures. I kind of knew this in the real estate business. I did this calculation a lot because sometimes if you're doing a new subdivision, you got things in acres. Like this is a 40-acre plot. What does that translate into getting a 7,000 to 10,000 square foot lot? So when you start laying out dimensions, there's 43,560 square feet in 1 acre. 1 square mile has 640 acres. It's a lot.
That's a fairly common.
So there's our acre, half the football field. There's 640 of those in 1 square mile. 1 square mile is called a section. I think we'll get into this a little bit later, but when we start laying out land use, a section of land in the United States is 1 square mile, which has 640 acres. And so when farmers have a 40-acre piece or an 80-acre piece or whatever, it's been carved out of that section of 640. And since it's a square mile, how many are there this way and how many are there this way?
If they have 80, 40. Oh, you're saying 3.
So we got a square mile is 640 acres.
Oh, 80 by 80.
80 by 8.
80 by 80,
80 by
6,400.
80 by 8.
Or 640 by 1.
So it's kind of like this.
I didn't think I could
Yeah.
mess up.
What's the square root?
And it's perfect square. All right, we're not there yet anyway. So let's just focus in on we've got.
There isn't like.
That'll be your challenge problem. I got a few things I want to get onto, but so that is
There's not a
the
defined
number.
amount.
There's 640
It's like 25 point something.
25.
There's not
in a section.
if a section of land is a square mile, there's not a defined, like there's not an absolute square root, like perfect square to get 640.
Yeah, I wonder if that.
Like 100.
Let's see, that's half. Half of that is.
320.
That's all right. I'll put that on the board if you
Might be able to get us down to.
Is it my turn?
This is a 40 right here.
I got graphs.
Here's a 40. You guys can figure it out. This is a 40-acre piece right here. I think the section is a lot bigger. The section. This is 40 acres. A quarter of a quarter. So this is a quarter piece, the quarter section, and then this is a quarter of it, and a quarter of that quarter. I think it's the 40. So.
64 times
And it's
40.
been a while since I've done this. Maybe I'm a little rusty, but all of that's irrelevant to what I really want to get into anyway. This is the main. I opened my mouth and got too far, but
64.
at least relative to an acre, it ends up being 0.47. So it's about half.
It's 25.
A little less than half is what it shakes out to be.
And a hectare is the whole field, huh?
The hectare was a field and a half.
A section is 4 square miles.
Jeez, that's huge.
4 square miles is a section.
Because
Okay.
you get,
Oh, you did, if I was right here.
yeah,
Which
so
I'm not
there's
100%
16 in a quadrant.
Yeah, I'll come back to it. We'll get into that later if we get into farming and land development. All right, I'll brush up a little bit more. So, we're going to jump right into a problem.
Is this chapter 7?
This is chapter 7, and so as you guys read chapter 7, part of your homework for today, you probably found out that it is mostly, it's talking about, history and growth and kind of some details. So I thought that the best approach was to hit some problems right out of the gate with it. And so I've got 3 problems, 7-3, number 7-4, and number 10 are the 3 that we're going to tackle.
After that.
So, consider a manufacturing firm that exports its output from a port city to the center city and employs workers who live in a suburb from the center. The daily freight cost is $9 per mile. The firm's daily labor cost increases from 20 at the suburb to 50 at the center. Using logic similar to figure 7.3, show the firm's labor costs, freight costs, and total costs for locations from the center to the suburb. Total cost is minimized at the where. So this problem is going to be a little bit different. What I did is included 7.3, which has different numbers, but the concept is the same. And you guys, again, can do this in a table like John did with the other problem. It doesn't have to be this graph.
Wait.
But we've
all
got...
all of our graphing problems, we could just do tables.
No, I didn't say that. I said on this particular one, how it's going, we can head that direction. So distance from the port. So in this case, we've got the city center, the way this question's outlined. So we're just using this as a model to think about, and we did this with the appendix in that other chapter, something very similar. Labor cost is falling as we get closer to our workforce, but the freight cost is rising at 9 miles per whatever mile.
So you're saying we haven't done any yet?
Yep, part A. Start working on part A. So create a little table of the city center versus the suburb and think about the cost, similar to what John did here. Maybe I could have even preserved some columns. So you got your numbers already. Okay, 50, 20. look like that, doing your 9 cents per mile, the distance.
Is it 9 cents or $9 per mile?
Dollars.
We don't have to worry about anything in the center, do we?
No. That's why with this problem, you don't have to even graph it out. You don't have any reason to, because we've got the 6 mile distance. We got the 9
How do you know it was 6 miles?
per mile. It's given in the problem.
Oh. It's in words, not in.
Yep, it's in Word. Then it doesn't jump out. And then it goes from 20 to 50 with the labor cost. Okay, so where do we locate? I think you guys are already moving on to B, I'm guessing, but city center. Now we do the old switcheroo.
Can you show how you got A?
Yeah, I'll come over to you. So we just want to minimize costs. So total cost is what we care about.
Okay.
Should I be at the city center or should I locate
Yeah,
in the center?
That's it?
Huh?
So you don't have to do the graph part?
Nope. Nope. That's why I said that you don't have to graph on that part A. Now, but now part B, we've got intracity truck is introduced, decreasing the daily freight costs. Where would the firm be indifferent to the city center and the suburb if the daily freight cost is what?
Okay.
So that's where we get into
Okay.
needing to solve for it.
It's the 3/5 for the, I guess, the purple.
The labor cost is 25 for the city center, right?
Yeah,
For each
that's,
mile
that's
outside.
just given. Yep.
So it's season. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just trying to remember what part you're answering. Are you on to the later one or here? Oh, okay. Suppose the daily freight, right, you're on part C.
Yeah, well, kind of both.
I couldn't remember if you derived that or if it was before.
Just the illustrative graph. So for B, do the illustrative graph too, or can you just do the math?
You can do the math, it's fine.
Hey, Austin, what's this?
Oh, okay.
For like all 6 miles.
You did it all 6 instead of doing a little calculation or equation. Okay. So you got the graph? Yeah. You got it all put together. As long as you get the pieces. Couple.
Chelsea, can I see your table?
All right, so you might have a couple different approaches here. So what does the daily freight cost need to drop to? Those of you who have calculated it. 5
So labor cost is how much?
Per mile.
6.
or 6?
I thought
6
it-
is
I
what
thought
the
it was
answer keys
50%
got.
and 20%.
So John, how'd you get 6?
Freight cost is originally 9, every total cost that goes up by 3, so if you drop down to 6, it would be the same at $50.
So on the so you're trying to equalize out the $50.
That's what you
Yeah,
should be
that's
doing.
$5.
Okay. So how'd you get 5?
Because you're only moving up, you're moving
You're
up.
only moving 30, 20, so 50 minus 20 is 30, 30 divided by 6 miles is
Summer
5.
It is 6 miles, yeah.
So it's 5.
It is 5.
So it's 5.
Does the answer
I know my math is right. There's no way I can mess up Purdue.
It's 5 per mile times 6 miles.
Yeah.
Gives you the 30.
Yeah.
Yep.
What? And this is what I'm kind of like asked you. Like on the divided by like is like fixed or does it go per mile a linear rate from 50 to 20?
So for 1 mile, it'd be 70.
So did they connect the dots or not? You connected the dots, right?
Well, I'm just, like, we're debating on whether, like, labor cost was, like, fixed, like 50
Right.
here, and then it's 20 at every other mile, or whether from mile 0 to mile 6.
They had it as fixed, but
So it's 20 the whole
from the
way down.
equation, or from what's given to us, the firm's daily, because you're basically connecting the dots in between, right? The firm's daily labor cost increases from 20 at the suburb to 50 at the center.
So it would go by $5 for every.
Yeah, and so, yes, you're just filling in the blanks between. But what are we doing for this problem?
Are we on
Okay, but I was just asking that little thing.
Oh,
I
just in
understand.
general.
Yeah, I just need
Okay,
to.
yes.
So,
So now for C, we're just assuming that it's $3 instead of $5. Because 3/5.
3/5 of the value you computed, yep. So you had 5, so then, yeah, it drops
This
to
one
3.
ends up being 5 because it's 20 to
Well,
30.
the freight cost was $5 per mile.
Right.
Total cost
It's $5
was
but it's like
60?
at the city center it's higher and then decreases by 5.
Total cost in the suburb is 50, right? So in this case, it's 50, which is equal to what it was in the city center.
And it was 20 for labor.
20 for labor, yep,
Plus 30.
yep. And the 30 came from 5 miles. That was our variable we solved for, though,
Okay.
times the 6-mile distance.
Okay.
Because the distance stayed the same at 6 miles.
Okay. 3/5.
Okay, I think we got to clear out of here, folks. Let's see.
You would just pick up your other
Yeah, but you guys are going to be gone, so I'm kind of thinking about you.
to watch the video.
so Chelsea, you started your labor cost. at
Yeah,
60 now?
I still want you to tackle the homework.
Yeah, turn that in.
Yeah, that's all I was thinking about. So yeah, we can.
Oh.
Yeah, because we'll end up going over.
And then I'll watch the video before
Just because,
Tuesday,
like,
make sure.
Yeah, before you guys get back after you're exhausted from your Italian adventure.
Can you check my chapter 6 and then check it back